we were discussing about the possibility of UPSC deferring prelims examination or postponing prelims examination and the potential to reschedule the same. Anyway, as I stated in the previous session, this time, even if the exam is rescheduled or not rescheduled, the extra time that the candidates are getting on a potential reschedule has to be effectively used for nothing other than mains preparation. Many of our civil service institute, many of the civil service mentors used to cover GS paper 1, GS paper 2 and GS paper 3 substantially. Since those areas, imagine you take GS paper 1, majority of the areas are, except world history, are there for prelims. If you take GS paper 2, almost all areas are there for prelims. If you take GS paper 3, again, except very few aspects here and there, almost all areas are there for prelims. So to be more precise, GS paper 1, GS paper 2 and GS paper 3 is equally applicable or equally relevant for both prelims and mains, with some exceptions like that of world history, or maybe a detailed or a broad understanding of government policies and programs and an appraisal of the same, which is coming in GS paper 2, which is definitely not required for prelims preparation. Other than these three papers, there is one more paper, and that is GS4, and the general title of the paper is Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude, where three core terms comes to the picture, and this paper has been introduced by UPSC with a special intention of assessing and evaluating the ethical potential of a candidate. Before introducing this paper, UPSC had a broad set of other papers, and since 2014 we can say that there is a paradigm shift in the approach of UPSC, where the ethical standards of a candidate and the analytical ability of a candidate and the administrative potential of a candidate is taken and is assessed by UPSC. I'm directly coming into ethics paper, since we had an introductory session on ethics paper in which we discussed about the general characteristics and the general aspects of ethics paper. Today, I will be dealing with one special area of ethics paper, that is almost 50% of ethics paper is exclusively dedicated to this area, and as you all know, that is the case study in ethics paper. Many of the students whom I come in touch with, many of the students whom I keep in touch with, they used to ask me how shall they deal with the case study area of ethics paper. Especially, case study is a difficult area where a practical applicability of the theoretical aspect of ethics is involved. I repeat, practical applicability of the theoretical elements of ethics is involved in the case study area. What is this practical applicability of the theoretical elements? You may be reading a number of things in books. You may be reading a number of things. You take, say, for example, a student who is dealing with zoology or botany. They may be dealing with, say, for example, a botany student. He may be dealing with a number of plants, probably. Okay, different forms of plants, flowers, etc. naturally. And he have a clear-cut idea even to draw a diagram of the same. At the same time, when that specific flower or plant is given to the student and he is supposed to dissect the same and to identify a particular part, he may be finding it not very easy, or sometimes he may be finding it very difficult without proper practical training. Same is the case of ethics, that is GS4 paper also, especially this 125 marks of GS paper, that is the determining area of GS paper 4, because it is the practical area where mark difference can be felt very profoundly. I repeat again, case study area is a specific area where mark difference will be felt very profoundly, and naturally it is an important area where the candidate should dedicate maximum attention. And here I am trying to help you out how to score higher marks and how to score maximum marks in case study questions in paper 4 or in GS paper. We know very well that if we go for the theoretical questions, the paper begins with the general definition of ethics, the determinants of ethics, then it deals with attitude, okay, the determinants of attitude, the elements of attitude and those things. Then it deals with aptitude. Again, similar things comes in aptitude, like the determinants of aptitude, the traits of aptitude, then how aptitude is linked with civil service, especially administrative aptitude comes to the picture. Then again, foundational values of civil service are discussed, like accountability, probity, etc, etc, etc. Leave all those areas. Of course, you need to develop a theoretical understanding of all those areas. But again, when it comes to a case study question, how as an individual, how as an administrator you are dealing with the problem. Here comes your administrative acumen that is being tested by UPSC. Please note this point. Your administrative acumen coupled with your ethical standards is tested by UPSC. And UPSC wants to know definitely how you will balance your answer in either of these two cases. That is, on one side you need to prove that you are an administratively capable officer. On the other side, you also want to prove at the same time you never compromise on ethical standards. All right. Now I shall be taking a case study question for convenience for you people. I shall be discussing a case study question so that will be a practical learning for you people. All right. So that you can better understand how to deal with a specific case study question if it is prompted or if it is specifically put before an academician rather. Okay, so maybe I may be taking one question. I'm just reading out that question. You are a no-nonsense, honest officer. You have been transferred. Please listen. You have been transferred to a remote district to head a department that is notorious for inefficiency and callousness. You know the meaning of these two words, notorious for inefficiency and callousness. You find that the main cause of the poor state of affairs is the indiscipline of a section of employees. They do not work themselves and also disrupt the working of others. You first warned the troublemakers to mend their ways or else face disciplinary action. When the warning had a little effect, your warning never had any effect, they did not mend their ways. You issued a shockers notice to the people who are involved in that. As a retaliatory measure, these troublemakers instigated a woman employee among them to file a complaint of sexual harassment against you with the Women's Commission. See how things are taking a dangerous turn. The commission promptly seeks your explanation. The matter is also publicized in the media to embarrass you further. Some of the options to handle this situation could be as follows. UPSC is giving you some options. Imagining UPSC is putting before you some options so that you have you have a hint, you have a clue how to deal with this problem. Else you should write definitely. And again, the first option is this. Give your explanation to the commission, that is to the Women's Commission, and go soft on disciplinary action. Second one, ignore the commission and proceed firmly with the disciplinary action. Third one, brief your higher ups, seek directions from them and act accordingly. Three options. Number one, just give an explanation to the commission and go soft on disciplinary action. So that you are making some compromise. Number two, ignore the commission in the sense of Women's Commission, and proceed firmly with the disciplinary action. And number three, brief your higher ups, that is your immediate higher officials, about your position, about your concern in this matter and about your stand, and seek directions from them and act accordingly. These are the three options. And again, UPSC also gives one more chance for you to suggest any other possible options, evaluate all of them and suggest the best course of action and give you reasons for it. You need to evaluate all the options given by UPSC, plus if required you can bring forth your own option, and you need to give reasons why you are not opting for one and why you are going for this specific action plan to deal with this problem. All right. And now again, coming to the first option, as we stated, the first option is this. You're giving an explanation to the commission, that is to the Women's Commission, and you are going soft on the disciplinary action. How can you deal with this option? Giving an explanation to the commission is definitely a nice choice. You are answerable to the commission since it is a statutory body established by the principles of parliament or principles of state legislature. You are definitely answerable to the same. But at the same time, going easy or going silly on the disciplinary action will mean that you are making certain compromises. Naturally, those people who are trying to break rules, those people who are now creating trouble in that department will become all the more powerful since you relaxed or you started moving slow in the disciplinary action domain. They realize that you are scared as a person. Second option, proceeding. Second question is this. Ignore the commission and proceed firmly with the disciplinary action. Again, proceeding with the disciplinary action. Second part is a good choice, definitely. But at the same time, this shows that you will not ever compromise on your ethical standards. That is good. You are proceeding with the disciplinary action. But at the same time, as I stated in the previous first explanation, as the commission is a statutory authority, you are supposed to give an explanation, and ignoring the commission is unethical. That is the problem with the second option, and naturally you cannot opt for that. Moving on to the third option, briefing your higher ups. That is the third alternative given by UPSC. Briefing your higher ups and seeking directions from them and acting accordingly. Briefing the seniors is definitely a good option because they are supposed to be made aware of what is your position on this matter and how you were dealing with this problem and what is the context in which such an allegation, such a false allegation, false alarm has been raised against you, naturally. But again, when you come to the latter part of this, if you seek directions from your higher ups, we don't know whether their directions are correct or whether their directions may be born out of reality. We don't know the surety of these things. Of course, you can seek directions, but you should be very careful to follow it or not to follow it, since you need to set your ethical standards primarily, and then only you should decide whether you may follow or not follow the directions. So seeking directions is fine, but that is to be followed or not to be followed is supposed to be decided by yourself, that is by the candidate or the officer himself. And again, as an individual, you know what is right and you know what is wrong. So their directions, the directions that is coming from the top, has to be followed only, please listen, only if it is ethically right. You should write this down in your respective answer paper. And again, we can finally come to your answer. The best choice is that you can brief to your seniors, you can definitely brief to your higher ups, you can definitely give an explanation to the Women's Commission. That is also required because it is a legally established body, and at the same time you can avoid media. Since you are not supposed to open up to the media, you can definitely avoid media at this time. And of course, as an ethical choice, you can move ahead with the disciplinary action. You can try to prove your innocence definitely, and again you can clear all doubts related to you by giving a very proper explanation to the immediate authorities, to the Women's Commission, and again by moving ahead with the disciplinary action. Here you are following an uncompromising attitude. You are following a totally uncompromising attitude. You are never ever ready to compromise with anything, any offer that is placed before you. And you are completely ignoring the media. Naturally, as I stated before, already the media is involved in this matter. That was the UPSC question. And why you are ignoring the media is very simple, because currently this is a procedural matter, and as an officer, as a law-abiding officer, even if the allegation is false, you are supposed to follow the suit, the principles of law, and you need not meet the media at any cost of it. I hope I am convincing you fully. You are not supposed to meet the media at this point of time. So what would be the most suitable action? Number one, brief and send a detailed report to the Women's Commission, and if possible, go and meet the commission authorities and go for a commission sitting and answer their questions with incriminating evidence and proof. That is the first thing. Second thing, brief your higher ups, no problem, because they are your higher ups, you are answerable. Brief your higher ups on your position on this matter because you are a probable officer, and again, probity is an important value in civil service. You are supposed to brief your higher ups. Nothing wrong in that, you can do that. Again, that part is over. But at the same time, if their decisions or if their instructions, as we stated, dealt with the second option, if their instructions are unethical, you are not supposed to follow them. And the last point, after finishing all these, you need to go ahead with the disciplinary action as it is, because you are appointed in such a post to control the inefficiency and carelessness of that particular department that is in a remote district, and you are supposed to take stringent action. And imagine what would be the result. You went ahead with the disciplinary action. Disciplinary action have been taken. Those people who are engaging in corruption, nepotism and anti-social practices, they were controlled. Their efforts, their nefarious efforts were tackled, and you presented a proper picture of your innocence before the commission. Naturally, you will be allowed to take hold of your position. You will be allowed to continue in your post, and some commission knows very well that they took it. They brought out this women's issue as a retaliatory measure, and finally you also briefed your higher ups regarding your actual position and regarding the facts, of course the facts that led to such a situation. So this would be a probable position that can be taken by a civil servant, especially a person who is in charge of a department when he deals with such a specific issue. We'll meet again with another discussion or another case study in the next session. Thank you.